Hello, Africa. You're welcome to ETV Ghana's African Women's Voices show. This is the show that tackles issues pertaining to women as they contribute to national development. My name is Eunice Tony, and I am excited to be with you tonight. I have a very beautiful and intelligent woman next to me who is our guest. I know most of us who follow us on social media have already known whoever it is, but she's Kate Aidoo. Look for her right now on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and follow her, okay? And follow her right away, okay? Find out what you need to find about her, and then when it's time for you to send in your comments, you send in your comments. I'm going to properly introduce her at the right time, but I just had to give you a tip on the iceberg. It is World Music Day across the world, and we all are celebrating music. One thing I like about music is the fact that it's, speaks a language everyone understands. Because sometimes music plays and you don't even know the language, but somehow you feel the passion, you feel the vibe, you feel the instrumental. It speaks to you in your own way. So today, the world is celebrating this particular tool that brings people together. And I am happy to celebrate this with Vocal Essence Chorale. So I also need you to go right now on Facebook, Instagram, and find out who they are and get to experience more of their music. But first, let me treat you to one. Wow, thank you very much, Vocal Essence Chorale. I enjoyed that reggae chorale. It was beautiful. So for those of you who are just joining us, they are Vocal Essence Chorale. Go on social media, look for them, find them, and book them, all right, for events. They do big events, small events, low budget events, whatever kind of event it is you're looking for, and you need choral music, reach out to them and discuss your budget, and they'll give you very friendly packages. So now I'm getting to introduce Kate Aidoo once again to all of us. Ladies and gentlemen, let the drum roll as well. That's really good. Welcome, Kate Aidoo. She's the Director of Public Affairs at the Parliament of Ghana, and she's quite busy, but she made it today to have this conversation with us because we're talking about Ama Ata Aidoo, a lady, a woman, a warrior that we all want to celebrate. And she said, no, I just have to be here for us to celebrate her together. But we just saw Vocal Essence Chorale. What would you say about choral music?
You know what they say about music, that he who sings prays twice. And I have this beautiful story that I tell about choral music and everything. About 4 or 5 years ago, one of the guys that work with me, Dominic Poby, says, "Mommy, why don't you sponsor one of our choral music festivals?" And that's how I fell in love with choral music. Here I am, I can't sing a note to save my life. But for the past 5 years, I've been working with people who are vocally talented, and it's been an amazing journey. And it's a genre of music that I've come to really like and appreciate. So yeah,
that's great. So now you have to add Vocal Essence Chorale to the list.
I think so, because again, hey Stefan, how you doing? Stefan is in harmonious chorale, and he is a French boy, and it's my son too. It's like the universe has a way of working these things out. So yeah, we'll check this one out and see if we can find the resources to also help them.
That's good. So, how many of you know Ama Ata Aidoo? Well, quite a number of us know her, but if you don't know her, we want to really celebrate her because when she passed, everyone was, eulogizing, saying things about her, and those who didn't even know her felt that someone has left Ghana and the world, and it's really hurting us deeply. So we went on Twitter to take a look at what was being said about her. And I would like us to take a look at what the tweets were saying when she passed. Director, can we have what the tweets are saying? Okay, the first one was from the President of Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo. He said, "I heard of the news of the death of Ama Ata Aidoo with sadness and sorrow. I extend deepest sympathies and condolences to her children and family on their great loss." Okay, so that's what the tweets are saying. We have quite a number of them, but as time goes on, we'll go back to them again and see through them. So if I should ask you, who Ama Ata Aidoo is to you, what would you say?
The first time I came across the name was when I read her book, Anoa.
Okay.
And it was because I was an art student, you know. I was studying literature in English, and I studied Anoa. And the thing about her, for me, is that you could tell what her personality was just by reading her books.
Okay.
So as I grew a little older, and I started to appreciate not just her writing skills, but also who she was, she represents the strength of a woman to me. She's seen evolution, you know, from when independence happened, and she's seen development in terms of women participation in the public space, in policy, in family life, in juggling all these things. And as a woman who has a similar lifestyle to the things that she writes about, she is, I rarely use that word, but she's a heroine to me. She's somebody that I look up to, and I find her views strong and firm. And I admire people who have strong, firm views, because I think that people should stand for something and be convinced about it. And for me, those are the qualities that I admire most about her. And when I think of the woman, I'm an old woman now, but I'm still growing.
Oh, come on, you.
I tell everybody I'm an old woman, but when I think of where I want to be, what I want to be saying when I'm 75, I want to be saying the things that she said when she was 75. When I think of her, I think of a strong woman, a woman that I like to emulate, and I hope that one day I'll also be able to write at least one book that sounds a little like hers before I leave this earth.
Definitely. You know, standing on the description, she's got strong views. We saw this particular footage, and we're going to credit BBC for this footage. And I mean, some of her strong views were felt through this particular footage, and that's about foreign aid, her views around foreign aid. So if we can have that so that our audience gets to understand where we are speaking from.
You know, my people, the Akans, we have a proverb. It says that good morning, thank you, is never enough to salt anybody's food forever. You cannot build your life on thank you, morning, thank you, English, thank you, God, you know, which is what aid makes, you know, we are always receiving. Nobody, look, and I don't care who hears, nobody anywhere in this world is going to send you their best of anything. Do you see? Neither the experts nor what I mean, people, you give us what you can afford. Aid is the leftover, really, and it cannot be enough. What I mean, aid, you can, when, you know, the world is, now the world is one place. So, there is nothing wrong if my house is in a crisis and you offered me something. There's nothing wrong, you know, because there is interrelationship. But a whole nation, a whole continent cannot live forever on aid. And I think aid is we are in Africa, we are in danger of making foreign aid a kind of policy that is wrong. I mean, I think that we, you know, it humiliates our people. The people in the villages have not asked anybody to go around begging on their behalf.
So you now can appreciate the woman we're talking about. She had very strong views, and she believes so much that we don't need to move around asking for help. And we should also understand that nobody gives you the best of what they have. They always give you the leftover. So Africa should see that when we are getting this help that we get from, you know, from the West, that we're not getting the best. We're just getting the leftovers that they felt like, okay, we can give to Africa, and then we are scrambling for it here. That's not where Africa should be. Africa should move beyond having to ask for help. And that's why she had very strong feminist views, because it's not only about men. Women also should also take up positions that are going to help them to get empowered, to contribute to society, you know, and lead Ghana forward. We can't have just a set of people doing that. You know, two good heads are always better than one. And some people found it a bit disturbing, the feminist views. But let's take a look at what feminism actually is. When they say someone is a feminist, is it really a bad thing to say? And why do people resist that word? Can you tell us what you think about feminism?
I have a whole book of thoughts on that one. But you see, just listening to what Professor Ama Ata Aidoo was saying, you know, sort of resonates with me when I talk about affirmative action. I've been talking about it for a while now because it's something that people in the feminist space do talk about. And it's the fact that aid is good. Aid is not a bad thing, but it shouldn't be what you depend on. And by the same token, when you talk about affirmative action, I'm saying that it shouldn't be a hand-me-down thing, that people will say, okay, so there shall be a committee of 4 people, 2 of whom or 1 of whom shall be female. For me, that shouldn't be. Why can't we say 1 of whom shall be male? And so I don't want to be handed over anything like that. If I'm getting something,
I must have earned it.
I must have earned it. And I've said this so many times. And so when she speaks about aid, when she speaks about taking things from people, for me, when you bring it to today's situation where we're talking about females getting into a certain space, whether it's in the workforce, whether it's at home, just equal rights, I'm thinking yes. And I agree with every thought that says it is time for women to take their rightful place. But don't give it to me just because I'm female. Give it to me because I deserve it. And that leads us to the thought of what feminism is. You know, people assume that people who are feminists, have a certain stance where they think all things female are good and all things male are not so good. I don't subscribe to that, and I've made a point to tell everybody who would listen to me that I don't have a daughter. I have 2 sons. And so it's important to me that the male child is also looked at, that the male in society is taken care of. So you don't have a situation where we say, okay, because women have been disadvantaged for all these years, men should take a backstage where women are given more access to education, more access to aid, more access to funds. But having said that, it's also true that women need a little more help than men because of the way our society is wired, culturally, socially, even economically. It is easier for men to get things done economically than women because our society has a certain patriarchy that has been in existence from forever because of the kind of people that we are. So it's important that we look at women and see how we can help them while also being mindful not to, leave the men, behind. Because I was reading a report a few months ago about education generally. And the research that I was reading said that nowadays, women are more likely to have a higher education than men. Women are more likely to finish probably a 2nd degree than men. But at the workforce, of course, it's not translating. But if this trend continues, then there will come a time when there will be more qualified females than males. And then what? So we need as a people to have a balancing act. Take parliament, which is something that I talk about a lot. For instance, since the return to constitutional rule in 1993, you've had 200 members of parliament increased to 230, increased to 275. You've had situations where out of probably 200, you had only 14 women. Today, you have 275 members. Only 40 are female. Obviously, women are not properly represented in a space like that. So when you look at things like that, then you want to do something about it. Even in the workspace, in the bureaucratic stream of things, the males are still holding positions, and they have some power that they use against a female. Just talking about myself and my experience, I noticed that it's easier for my male counterparts to get certain things than it is for me. And sometimes you find that things are done in the workspace not because you are capable or not capable, but because you are a certain gender. But again, you know, once I say that, I must also say that nowadays there's a lot of men who are he's for she, and they, you know, are doing their bit, you know, to help the females to grow. So when I talk or when I think about feminism, for instance, I think about blurring the gender roles. I don't want to wake up every morning and have to bathe my kids and cook breakfast every day. I like to do it sometime, but I don't want to be bogged down with that duty when I have a meeting at 9. I must go to that meeting because it doesn't matter whether I'm hermaphrodite, I am male, female, whatever sexual gender or whatever I am. I need to get things done. I need to get things done. And so for me, dealing with issues about feminism and all those things, first of all, let's blur the gender roles. Let's stop the stereotyping. Let's give women more chances. And when you give women chances, give them chances that they can actually take. Not tokenism or replacing strong women with weak women and saying that, oh, it's still a female in the position. No, do the right thing and make sure that women get their place of pride, not just at home, but at work, in the church, you know, everywhere that there's a space where, you know, there are gender issues, women need to be held. You know.
Fantastic. Wow, that's well captured. I'll be going for a quick commercial break. When we return, we get to talk about Ama as a writer and how she felt about being a writer. And afterwards, I'm going to be asking our Kate here what she thinks about the views that she just shared. Do not go away. And you're welcome back to ETV Ghana's African Women's Voices show. At this point in time, let's just take you on the journey of how Ama Ata Aidoo felt being a writer.
Well, I'm being a writer, really. It is crazy. I mean, it is a very self-consuming kind of activity. You know, you sit in a room, you write, and you think that other people outside want to hear it. I mean, the tensions of, you know, writing a book, it's tense. When you finish writing the book, you are tense because you wonder, how will the publishers and editors react to a book, to a story? Even when it's published, you wonder, why are they saying that my books are selling in Ghana, in Nigeria, in Sierra Leone, Botswana, Lesotho, even South Africa? Kenya, and I'm still so poor. So all of these issues are part of the horror, real horror, of being a woman, a writer, an African. But you don't stop writing because of any of them. You just go on. Life is like that.
You never stop writing. That's what she said. Sometimes you write and you're tense. You're wondering, how are people going to react to this piece of work? But you just keep writing. And that brings me to a portion in her book titled Changes. I liked what Nana said, one of the characters in Changes. Nana said, a woman has always been diminished in her association with a man. I have zero interest in being referred to as a good woman. We all know what it means. I quite prefer to be called a good human. You see that? And much more than a good woman. So what do you make of this?
I mean, remember I was saying that if you will give me anything, don't give me because of my gender. Give me because I deserve it. And it's the same principle. And when Nana said that, you know, it's something that is profound in today's world. And when even you look at the larger world where all kinds of debates and conversations are being had about whether a person is a certain gender or not or whatever it is, then you even find, you know, that really I shouldn't be a good woman. I should rather be a good human. To which extent then issues of discrimination, issues of exclusion, issues of inclusion will be done away with, because then we won't be looking at people because they have a certain body part, but because they are, you know, just human. And for me, that is a very nice thing to say. And when you read Chances, you find the three women that she used, AC, Upukua, and then I think Fuseina. And these are women who had all kinds of layers to them. And at every layer, you find the challenges, but also the beauty of being a good human generally. and the challenges that we face every day. And for me, even when I was reading Chances, the other thing that came to mind was that when you look at even Acey's husband, Oko, for instance, he was a very insecure person. And that made me think that, look, sometimes we underestimate the power of women. In fact, most of the time, we underestimate the strength of women and also overestimate the weaknesses, or maybe we underestimate the strength of women and overestimate the weaknesses. Am I making sense?
You're making sense.
Of men. So we think men are a lot stronger than they actually are. But you find that they have problems that really and truly, sometimes we women, you know, don't necessarily see as problems. And I remember I had a not so nice joke that I used to share with somebody share with somebody. I look at a certain man, I'm like, so is this man is at home and will be taking decisions regarding his children's education and giving even names for. I mean, really, he doesn't possess the quality. It's not a nice thing to say about anybody, but you know, it's just a bad joke that, you know, people. But you know, that's the truth. People are not endowed with wisdom because they are a certain gender. You see, and for me, that's what Ama Ata Aidoo sought to do with Chances. And you know, the thing about Chances also is that when her Dutch, I think, producer or publisher saw the book, he said, this book should be called Choices. Okay. Because the people in the book were not just taking chances, they were actually making choices. So you're faced with the choice of whether you want to be a wife, a traditional wife who has to wake up in the morning and prepare food like Oko was expecting Acey to do, or you want to be like Acey and get up and go to work and, you know, choose your career over your traditional wifely roles. And so you find that at every stage, women are having to take decisions with regards to whether to drive their kids to school in the morning because it's a woman's duty to do that, or whether you come home from work at 11, let's say we leave you at 10, and you still have to go home and get a nightcap for your husband. These are questions that plague women, and not just in the workspace, but also at home. Because sometimes, let's say even housewives, and people tend to underplay the roles that housewives play because they sit at home all day. But someone's been at home, it's cooked breakfast, it's cooked lunch, it's done laundry, it's cleaned. And sometimes, you know, just had a bad day. And then you come and say, you've been home all day, I need my dinner. Like, find your level, you know. So these are the things that plague women, which we must talk about. And when you look at Ama Ata Aidoo's book, from the 80s to the 90s, we saw a lot of movement towards liberating women. We had the conferences that saw the Beijing conferences, and all those things happened in the 90s. Before that, and researching for this evening's conversation, I stumbled upon something that in 1825 or something, people had already started talking about how to make sure that women were doing well. And so this is a conversation that's being had for so many years. We have made some strides, but then again, there is so much to be done. And so, what's the deal? Are we going to do it? Are we going to sit back and say, oh, she's just female, you know, she will get over it?
We're going to keep moving forward. And we are hoping that our men will support us so we do this together, because it's all about working together and making things happen in society. That's the future we are looking forward to.
That's the future we are looking forward to.
All right, so talking more about Ama, I also stumbled upon this footage that I'd like us to take a look at, and that's a footage around survival. So her views on survival is what I'd like you to see right away.
Since we met you people 500 years ago, look at us. We've given everything. You are still taking. It's true. I mean, where will the whole Western world be without Africa? Our cocoa, our timber, our gold, our diamonds, our platinum, our whatever. Everything you are is us. I am not saying it, it's a fact. And in return for all of this, what have we got? Nothing. Anti-personnel indoctrination against ourselves. If you go and cook your horrible diseases like AIDS, you say it is us. You brought us tuberculosis. We didn't have this big cough until white people came here. In exchange for Africa giving Europe 500 solid years of our people, I mean, not Europe, the Western world, of our human beings to work your canes, to dig your gold, to take in gold itself, diamond, I mean, you know, fish, peanuts, palm oil, everything. In exchange for that, we have got nothing. Nothing. And you know it. Nothing. And you look upon, you know, white folks look upon us like monkeys. It is true. It's in your literature. Hey, you know, some of your best thinkers have said this about us. Have you heard of all these Germans? Have you heard?
Okay.
Yes. They said, Lord Burton, yes. People like that, they said, we don't even have the brain of animals. That's what we've got from you people.
But don't you think that this is over now?
Over where? Is it over? Who said that AIDS came from the green monkey? Is it over? Is it over?
Well, if this is your impression, do you think that you can ever forgive us?
It's not a question of forgiveness. I have nothing against you. My point is that you did and you are doing for your survival what is necessary. We can't blame you for that. The fact that we didn't do enough for our own survival and we are still not doing enough for our survival, that is not your problem. You know, even everybody that God has created has a sense of survival. You know, and if we don't develop it, we can't blame white people. You came here because you needed these things. You took gunpowder from the Chinese. You needed them to shoot people.
Oh, we all miss Ama Ata Aidoo. She had very strong views. And I want to believe that those of you who are watching her right now, who never knew her, can appreciate the reason we are celebrating her tonight. And those of you who already knew her, watching this video again brings back some nostalgic memories, right? Yes, it does. So this is her own explanation around survival. The West did what it did to us because they needed to survive. And in our case now, we also want to survive. And that's why we are looking into empowering our young people so that tomorrow's Africa will be better taken care of. And that brings me to how we are empowering the girl child, even though we want to empower the boy child as well. But let's take a look at the girl child. And you are a woman in a leadership position, you know, in the state. And I mean, it would be good for us to hear what it is that you are doing actually to empower girls to get to where you are and even beyond where you are.
I think the first thing is, and that's what I try as a person to do. Thing is that people would listen to what you're saying, but would not necessarily do as you say, but would watch you and say, oh, she did this and it's beautiful. She did this and it got her this way. And so I try to lead by example. And I've been fortunate in the sense that by virtue of my work, I come into contact with lots and lots of young people. I mean, my workspace is changing a little, but it will change for the positive. But until now, I've come into contact with millions of young people. And the girls that I have come into contact with have always admired the fact that it's a woman who is the boss. And so they say, oh, how do you do it? And for me, that gives me an opportunity in my official capacity to impact. There are so many people that I have mentored who have done so well, some even better than myself, and for which reason I'm very grateful to God for. But again, I believe like the universe always finds a way of working certain things out. To me, I'm a very proud boy mom, and I say it whenever I can.
All the time.
But I have a company, I have an NGO called the Dual Concept Foundation. Guess what, Eunice? One day, I get a call from our very good friend Oswald. I says, oh, I'm doing this. Can you come and support me? And because it's young people and everybody knows I like young people, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm sure I'm coming. And when I go, it's a room full of girls.
Wow.
Yes. And so he says, after the event, he says, you know, we can do something with this. The Dual Concept Foundation can do the Upgirl Foundation. So I'm like, okay, that's really good. So we said, okay, what do? We brainstormed, and then we had our first program in 2001 at the Coligono Library. And it was to talk to young girls about how to force for their space in the education, because they are young girls, they are in school, how to force for their space in the educational space and then move on to the workforce. And I must say that we've been very lucky in the sense that we've had students who have come on board. We've spoken to so many, and I've had very brilliant women who have helped me. The UNESCO General Secretary is one person who helps me, the NCCE Commission Secretary. So many very smart women have come on board to help us to talk to the girls. And when we do that, what you find is that policy is good. Policy helps to form the rules and regulations under which people can, do things. But person-to-person impact is invaluable. It has lasting impressions on them. It leaves them with wanting more. And you find that people actually will do well if they are hungry enough. So maybe as a people, we are not hungry enough. And that's what I think Ama Ata Aidoo was referring to when she says, I do not blame you for coming to take what is mine. I should have been responsible enough for the things that belong to me. And so I think the time has come when policy is important and we have rules that regulate, activities of girls. For instance, all these sexual issues that surround girls. For me, that makes it difficult for them to do well in school. All you have to do is have a pretty face, and chances are some male teacher will, come onto you, and that disturbs them. Other issues that include menstrual cycles and the effect that it has on them, reproductive, systems and what it does to women, the hormones and all those things. And I'm happy to say that there's a group that is even talking about, the taxation on the pads. And I think it's tomorrow that is the walk, and then a final destination being Parliament. And I'm thinking that, and I think one girl, Parliament went to what's it called, the Northern Regions for the 30th anniversary, and the issue that came up, one child said, are you taxing me because I'm female? Because why must I pay tax on something as essential as a sanitary pad? Just because my physiology, makes it mandatory that every month I must have a flow which necessitates that. What if I can't afford it? Child labor. You find child labor, people talk about child labor every day. You find that the people who are most affected are young girls. You talk about conflicts, not just in Ghana, but in Africa, in the world, some places in the world. And you find that when wars happen, the people who get in trouble are women and young children. The boys are agile, they are able to move about, they are able to get concessions which the girls don't get. And then the girls get into trouble, they get misplaced. You find a 14-year-old child having a baby. And again, today I was reading somewhere that an SS2 student girl had a child with her mate. And then her partner went on to finish his school. And she had to step
aside.
But the thing is that, I always concede that some developments have been made in that direction where you find that once in a while there's a girl that gets pregnant but is able to continue. But it shouldn't even be a question that will be talked about. What level of sexual education are we giving? Are we being like ostriches and burying our heads in the air and saying that people shouldn't have sex because they are young? Because they are doing that. So if we can't get them to abstain, are we giving them the tools to prevent them from getting pregnant? And if a pregnancy occurs, are we cushioning them enough to ensure that they are sustained and they don't lose anything in terms of development? These are some of the issues that I feel like we should pay more attention to. And this is not to say that nobody's paying attention to these, but when you look at the reality, you read the policies, they are very beautiful, they're saying all these things are available to the girls. You come to the reality of the matter and you find that that's not the case. I know of a certain person who was championing very, very vociferously affirmative action, but he would say in private that Emawe omo hajin. And I'm thinking, are you serious? And,
yeah, how I doing?
and this person would give opportunities to people because they are male. Do you get it? So the issue is not simply of policy, is of actually walking the talk. And also for us females who have been lucky to go to school and have found some balance between home and work, to mentor the young ones. To mentor the young ones and have positive, images for them. What we are doing with social media is not the best for tomorrow's children, where we are glorifying things that shouldn't be glorified. What happened to intelligence? What happened to understated elegance? These are things that we need to instill in the young girls to ensure that our tomorrow is secure. Because we are not going to die and leave our country to people who cannot take care of it. That shouldn't happen.
That's not going to happen at all. At all. It's not going to be allowed to happen. Wow. I was just checking my timepiece and I realized that it was almost 9 p.m. and I'm really enjoying the conversation.
Oh, dear.
Oh, my goodness. We've got very short time. Very, very short time. So let me just go through the comments and then I'll at least let those who have sent their comments know that we've seen their comments. Okay, so I'm going over to our comment section. I'm seeing most of you who are sending in their messages. And I'm seeing a question here. How are we grooming prolific writers like Ama? And what is Kate's contribution to it? And this is coming from Mary Lawson. Hi, Mary.
Is it the same Mary Lawson?
It's the same Mary Lawson,
Mary Lawson is my sister. So I don't know what she's doing sending any kind of question. That is my baby sister. She's very, very dramatic. So her name actually is Mary Aidoo, and she's married to Mr. Lawson. So but yeah, Ama Ata Aidoo said something, that writing is a very difficult thing. You worry at the stage of writing, you worry when it goes to your publisher, you worry when it comes out, how are people going to take it? And we are having a very good example in the past 2 days. So these are things that we worry about. But more importantly, and also very relevant, is the fact that while you're worrying about all these things, it is a very gratifying thing when you are able to put words on paper that impact somebody's life. And I was telling you, I could recite Ama Ata Aidoo's Anoa from cover to cover. That's how much she impacted my literary growth. And I've read so many of her books. I've read Sutherland's book, and I thought at a very early age that I was going to be a writer. In fact, I still play with that thought. And I have some poems that I should publish one day. But the reality is that it is a difficult space. And sometimes it doesn't pay the bills. And the bills need to be paid. And so that is the difficulty. So how do we make it attractive? We need to make sure that when people write, we respect their intellectual property, we are paying for what we are taking from them, and generally nurturing, people's writing skills, because there are some really beautiful writers around. And my sister is a very good writer too. I am too. I think we got it from our dad. So I feel like I think I'm going to write. I have some really potent thoughts in my mind, which I am thinking to put down at some point in my life, not at the moment, but later on when I'm a little more settled into my thoughts and everything. So I think we should encourage younger people to write, more, because that's the only way that we can also get our views heard in the global village that we are in. I think there's a quote about something about if you don't like the story that's being told, write your own. And so it's time for us to start writing and making sure that what we are thinking is put on paper, so that people don't reduce our existence to green monkeys and us living on trees and everything. And social media is helping us. I mean, now the internet is such a good space where you can reach millions and billions of people in real time. Why don't we take advantage of it and put our thoughts there, and go through the processes that will ensure that our thoughts are paying for our bills. So I think it's a good thing to do.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you
I
for having
really
me.
appreciate this time with you, and we've got to do this again.
I'm enjoying myself. I was asking you that I'd like to come and talk about the Up Girl Foundation.
We still will have to do that.
Yeah, we still have to do that. And this can be like the springboard to conversations about how we can help younger girls. And sometimes we think that using hard skills is what is needed. But in today's world, I find that the softer skills work better. And that's what we need to use for the younger girls. And so when we talk about helping women and impacting them for a better future, I'm thinking that, like I said earlier, instead of telling them what to do, why don't we show them? And then why can't we be a little more empathetic to their thoughts? And that leads me to the book. What's it called? The book that Ama Ata Aidoo wrote about Nana and Mami and the little girl. The story was told. You can something.
The girl who
the
can.
girl who can. You see, here is a child that was the girl who can. Here's a child that had very thin legs. And by the way, I have thin legs too. Yeah, she has very thin legs. But she found her strength in the most unlikely space where she became an athlete. And her grandmother, who was body shaming her, became very proud of her. Say positive things to the girls. Don't, as females, we are wired to be self-conscious, so there is no need to emphasize that. People are gifted differently, so you would find that people in the works, again, because I work with young people a lot, I have an example of a girl who came to me when she was about 20, and she did her practical attachment in national service, and later on she got employed. And her dad said to me that, oh, she's not very smart, and so she needs a lot more attention. And all this person needed was a challenge. And she's one of the things that, she's one of the people that I feel like God has blessed me with in terms of my success story of impacting others. She's almost done with a master's degree, and she is very, very, very competent. All she needed was somebody to say that, I trust you, make that mistake, just don't make it every day. Don't make the same mistake every day. Make new mistakes every day. And it's okay to make mistakes.
It is okay.
I am 50, I still make a lot of mistakes to this day. And so making mistakes is fine. Make your mistakes, but make sure that it's a different mistake every day. And make sure that it's teaching you something and leading you to a goal that you've set for yourself. As young girls, it's not, you don't need to set really big goals for yourself. And I think that's also one of the things that we need to look at. Set small goals. So today, I am going to lose maybe half a pound because I'm a little overweight and I need to be healthy. Don't give yourself 2 kilos. Today, I'm going to read one paragraph of a 300-page book. You don't need to read a whole chapter. Do something. Just don't give yourself unrealistic goals, but set goals for yourselves every day. Achieve them. Fail. Fall down. Get up. Run. Fall. Do whatever you can, but move forward. Hurdles. Hurdles are forward.
Yeah.
So you meet a hurdle. If you jump it, you are going forward. You're not going back. So it's fine. I want the girls to know that it's fine to fail. There's nothing wrong with failing. And my sister Gifty Auntie's book, When Strong Women Cry, that book shows the weakness of what one would think is strong women shouldn't cry. Hey, this is Kitado. Is she actually sad today? Oh, this person. I am a human being. I cry sometimes. I fail a lot of times. In fact, more times than I succeed. So,
I can imagine. Unfortunately, we just have to close this conversation. But please just know that we're going to have this conversation again with her, especially because we have to discuss, what is happening around girls and what she's doing with them, the Up Girl Initiative, right? We really will have to do that. And please, the messages you sent, she's going to read them when she gets home. So don't think that, okay, she didn't read my message and all that. We didn't really have much time because the conversation was just too good. And we want to say a very big thank you to all of you who decided to make time to watch us. And also to the family of Ama Ata Aidoo, we are saying, be comforted. Be
and we are
comforted.
saying thank you posthumously to her for all the beautiful words she put on paper and how she was able to showcase our culture and our people in such a positive light. Thank you very much, Madam, and may the earth lie very gently on you.
Amen. So please, the repeat broadcast of this show is coming up on Friday at 11 a.m. So until then, do enjoy the rest of our interesting lineup for you. Bye-bye.